opportunity is. And that's how I think a lot of people should be thinking about their build mode as well here too. So this is a big part of our strategy, a big part of our success, a big part of our focus. And if we could get all these things right, we can absolutely get to the next level of where this building is. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that strategy of how actually onboarding to Web 2 is going to look. But before I do that, give me another 45 seconds as I go grab my dog again really quickly, as they are acting a little silly. Give me just a second. All right, I hope that was within 45 seconds. Oh, my dogs are back now. So let's chat. Oh, the dogs are great. All the dogs are living their lives, enjoying it up. I think Archie especially, he's a very needy dog. Most of the he's a Cavapoo poodle mix, so they call it a Cavapoo. Sorry, a Cavalier poodle mix. Yeah, Cavapoo. And they usually are used for emotional therapy, but weirdly, I think I'm his emotional therapy human on that front. Archie, come here. Yeah, so they're all doing well on that front. But let's talk about the Web2 onboarding side. This is kind of a huge aspect of how we need to think about as a builder in this market. And of course, when we look to this, right, when we're talking about even on Rumble, right, there's all these fake numbers out there, right? This is one of the biggest challenges that I think all of Web3 is overlooking, right? They all think that, hey, we can at least grow as long as we build a good product. But the problem they don't recognize is that the entire current launch philosophy is completely broken, right? And what do I mean by that? It's completely broken. Well, the problem is that there's no meaningful curation strategies for most of these projects. Look at all the top hype projects right now, literally all the top hype projects. And you know what's crazy? They're all using the same extreme grind mechanics, right, to be able to scale up. And because of that, what you're recognizing really quickly is that it's leading to incentives for alts and grinders to take advantage of that. And it's not an awful thing to have certain alts or certain grinders in, but if that's the majority of your allocation, right, you're going to be facing so much sell pressure at the start, right? Because these users are going to be seeking exit liquidity right from day one. And this is a challenge here, right? Is that a lot of people don't realize how to properly curate. The next best curation methodology you're going to see is maybe some partnerships. And that's where Tribe is really powerful, right? This is where we've learned a lot. Almost every partner we talk to says our users are the best. Literally, they say our users actually come and engage in their Discord. They actually interact with their content. They're actually meaningful in regard to seeing live audiences as well. And because of that, right, it's given us a huge leverage in regard to the amount of allocation we can get. And speaking of, we'll be opening up the village market later today to get you guys some allocations with Wallet Wars starting first. And then behind that, right, we're going to have a few more coming out, which are going to be pretty exciting, including, what else do we have on our calendar? We have, I think there's a couple more, right? So we have Geoverse tomorrow, and then I think Michelin's either going to be later this week or early next week as well. So this is going to be the nice little part about this, is that we're going to be able to scale up and give you guys a bunch of access all through this kind of amazing real community we're building. And the question then begs is, how many other communities are truly building aligned users, measuring them, managing them, curating them, in order to ensure that the project that they're partnering with gets their best users? Right? We think collabs are the wrong thought process, right? Where you're just exchanging whitelists for random auctions as well. And this is why we took it another step at Tribe. We started to build, right? Rather than raffles, we went to auctions, right? Raffles are just random, right? Where it's, again, do you have the luck? And again, what we realized, and we tried, and we've done some raffles here historically, but they don't really give an element of conviction in behind the user. So what have we done? We've turned it into an auction-based platform. And what's brilliant about an auction-based platform is simple, is that you guys have the choice on when you want a specific asset, and you're competing versus others in the community as well. And that means that it usually will lead to more conviction. That's what we intrinsically are believing in that way. But that's just one way of getting to conviction. That's really what the entire spectrum of what we're trying to build on. We're trying to go from curation to conviction. Better curation should lead to better conviction, right? If we do that, right, not only are we helping our users, we're helping our partners as well. And that's the weird thing about all these collabs. They're all like done in kind of one-off directions. And this is a major reason why most of these projects are struggling to sustain. So when we look at this, right, Tribe has to solve for two things. We have to build a proper curation of Web3 users that are already here. But more importantly, what we also have to get right, we have to figure out how to onboard new users into our framework as well. And again, it's not millions, it's thousands to start. Because imagine if we just bring on another 200 or 300 more live concurrent listeners, Tribe is hands down the largest show in Web3 on anything we do, right? Already, just in those numbers alone, right? Does this massively change the output of the industry? Probably not, but does it massively change the output of Tribe's trajectory? Absolutely. It could lead to way more significant partnership, sponsorship, reach for allocation. It gives us the ability to find more people to be aligned with the visions and the products we're building. And that's a huge, huge factor as well. So as Tribe kind of goes through this, there's kind of two big insights that we'll share here, right? And we aim to be as transparent as we can, right? Our goal is to still ensure the first party IP that we're building, right? Oath, Reapers, Ronin, and a handful of others behind that, Fury. I mean, we have a lot of IP, but we're not in a rush for any of these, right? Because we believe that our IP is significantly more valuable than just throw it out into any market conditions. We don't believe in that. But the second thing that we also intrinsically believe is that if this market continues to stay sideways and or bear at this level, what do we need to do? We need to find new ways to still grow this audience that is a counter measure to this. And this is the other major factor that Tribe is focusing on, is how do we bring on new Web 2 and existing Web 3 users. So you're going to see in Q4 that we're going to put out two major endeavors, right? The first endeavor is going to be essentially like that Tribe passport with the port key, right? You're going to have this amazing ability to have your own on-chain asset and build on-chain reputation, not only with Tribe, but an extended reputation that could be accessed by other parties as well. We believe that's going to be a huge importance because our goal is to put all of our community members in the lead to get whitelists for other projects. That's what we're collectively doing. We've always been doing that as well, right? Which has been pretty exciting. What we are now really excited to be able to do is take that to the next level and bring you guys along. And it's not just you. What's really cool is that Tribe Passport long term will be accessible to other holders as well, right? So Soul holders are going to be getting a rare one, early access one, and going to be getting exclusive claims. But long term, we do have a belief of making this where I want everyone to have a Tribe asset of some sorts. And this is the first way we start with it. And once you get that passport-like feature, you're going to have multiple claims behind that. And that's a great way for us to not only retain our existing audience, but also grow our existing audience in Web3. So that's going to be one of the huge arcs we're working on. But that's not the arc that I'm looking to talk about today. The arc that I'm also really excited about is the second one we're focusing on. And that's thoughtfully thinking through how we're going to bring new users on from Web 2 into Web 3. And we believe we have one very special category to do that, and that is comics. That is through Tabula Rasa, right? And this is going to be this huge advantage of where we're trying to go and scale as an entity, because we believe we could get into the absolute design of this growth of where this vision is going. So what's really exciting for Tribe right now is that we've been silently building the comic book side of the equation for this org for a long time. And the real reason for that is that we believe the comic book industry can be massively disrupted and leveled up for Web3, right? It can leverage meaningful utility around blockchain technology to make the comic book experience not only better, but moreover, the way that we've designed our community in this social setting to do live drawings, interviews, and more is another amazing level up to the current product experience in comic books. But the third and most important thing around comic books as well is the concept of, can we give fair pay and upside to talent? And that's the major thing Tabula Rasa is striving for. Our goal is to actually get artists, creators, writers, illustrators, all of the amazing talent here to get way better pay and, more importantly, way better equity ownership around the IP that they have built. This has been something that the comic book industry has been taking advantage of, right? Your biggest favorite comic book brands like Marvel, DC, and beyond are honestly quite garbage people. Uh, it's a blunt thing to say, but if you actually look at how the economics break down for most comic book artists, they are getting massively taken advantage of, these multi-billion-dollar brands. And that is exactly a way that we could actually combat that with NFTs, right? With NFTs, you could get transparent pay structures. You could showcase better new ways of distribution. But moreover, what's really powerful here is that the digital comic book medium makes a lot of sense. If you already looked at the comic book industry, there's already been huge consumption in digital only comics. This started like 10 years ago or 8 years ago with Comixology as one of the major winners as well. So you already see that people are willing to consume these assets digitally. We already know that users are willing to build and own physically. And then what's really great is that this is an industry that's in turmoil as well, meaning that there's room for a new entrant. So what are we trying to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to where Web2 users are. You could actually now look on our calendar and our event, and it's going to be happening now every Thursday, it looks like, at this early time slot, where every Thursday we're no longer going to be using Discord. We're no longer going to be using Twitter. We are going to YouTube. And on YouTube, our goal is to actually reach out and build audience and awareness to other comic book collectors in a medium that they're most excited about as well. And this is where we're going to start putting really interesting tests together. We want to see a couple things. One is, can we reach these audience members live via via YouTube? And can we make sure that we're getting new users in? And this is a very important factor for where Tribe is going. Archie, come here. Hey, Archie. Sorry, guys, one sec. My dog's being a little crazy. No, Archie just tearing up paper he found on the ground because we're outside, so just stopping him there. So, when we look at how we think about onboarding Web 2, right, not only do we think it's important to go with where these users are, but we also have to sell natively to them as well, right? It's significantly further than just, hey, we're going to YouTube, come into our ecosystem. Because the truth is, all these people who are coming in via YouTube, we're not going to redirect them to Discord. This Discord is not built for a Web 2 audience. This Discord is built for a Web 3 audience as well. So what do we need to do is we need to find a way to translate them into a conversion where we could build a relationship with them. And that's not coming here, it's rather building a different source, right? So what our goal is YouTube is going to be the top of funnel reach for a lot of our new audience members that are coming to the comic book industry. But what's also going to be interesting is that we're going to be selling comic books through, surprisingly, one of the unique places that is getting the best comic book sales in the world, and that's Kickstarter. What's really interesting about Kickstarter at the moment right now is that Kickstarter is being used to crowdfund comics, and they are raising 100,000, 250,000, sometimes even $1 million for certain comic books, right? And this is the amazing thing, is that you could actually build a product experience that gets you $25,000 to $50,000 if you build a really good campaign and bring those users in where they're already comfortable buying comics, right? And this is going to be a really interesting test for us, because not only are we going to be selling them IP like Lost Realms and Keensight, but we're also going to be introducing a total new IP that has no Web3 connection at all, right? It's a brand new IP that we've been developing internally called Baker's Dozen. And it's going to be very fresh, very different, very adult, I guess you could say, as well, in a fun way. It's got just very interesting themes that kind of give us a much wider range of content here as well. Of course, you as soul holders will still be able to get certain free, digital comic access as well to all the content that we're building. But the goal absolutely is going to be a huge, huge focus on trying to get new Web2 users to buy physical assets first, right? And that's the important thing, right? The way that we're building this out is when it comes to Web3, right? Is when it comes to Web3, I'm trying to allow you guys to buy a digital asset first and then potentially have a physical asset to claim later, right? So that's effectively how these comic books are going to work. Through your port key and through that claim structure, you're going to be able to get a comic book. And in that digital comic book, you could fully read it. But if you want, right, then moving forward, your next step will be the ability, if you want, to get a physical copy of this. And there will also be unique rewards for that physical copy. We'll have this kind of fun little golden ticket game. We have a few cool things that are coming through the pipeline there as well. But the other really exciting thing that as we kind of build forward as well is that we're trying to build the inverse here as well for the market, right? And that inverse here at this point is going to be closer is going to be closer to the Web2 audience, right? Where we're going after comics first, and as physical comics, right? That they're going to be able to sell via Kickstarter, and then later on in that journey, our goal is to potentially allow them to have a digital claim. So it's this inverse relationship. A good example of this is what Pudgy Penguins has been doing. Pudgy effectively, right, created a process, right, where they were able to kind of create digital assets that can be effectively used by anyone, right, that owns a Web3 wallet. And then it led to physical claims, right? And then vice versa with their Walmart strategy, they're giving users physical assets, right? And then allowing them to get a digital claim, right, with Polygon trait-based assets as well. I actually think this is the right strategy. I think this is actually how you're going to be able to onboard Web 2 people into Web 3 people here as well. And because of that, right, this whole opportunity is going to get way more exciting because you're building two separate funnels. The biggest reason why Web 3 struggled at this is that they've been trying to force everyone through the same funnel. Like, buy the digital asset first. I promise you it's worth a lot. It's going to be amazing. We're going to take over the world. And of course, almost none of those realities came true, right? We all got kind of fucked on most of these NFTs, and especially a bunch of retail got fucked, right? And that's kind of the other amazing thing is as well. So now our whole challenge is like, okay, we can't force people to the same funnel. How do we build distinct funnels that allow them to kind of grow? And that's what's important about Tabula Rasa. Tabula Rasa is not a Web3 brand. Tabula Rasa is a comic book brand, period. It's going to explore Web 2 and Web 3 technology, of course, across the board, but it's going to give you guys two different entry points depending on what you want. And the best part is that you yourselves can come through the Web 3 funnel because you're already here, part of Tribe, but you could recommend all of your friends to come through a Web 2 funnel, which just requires them to connect with an email and make payment through whatever they do through an online portal that they're used to already. And because of that, you could start connecting these relationships together and start building a compounding audience where we all just love the same thing. Create great comics, make fun memories, right? And be able to ensure that those who are participating in that creation are getting their fair value, or we actually honor these creators. That's been one of the biggest lessons we learned from the first shift in Web3, right? When we look at the only successful real use cases in Web3 has been a lot on the generative art, photography art, and physical art side, allowing those artists to have another medium for growth, sales, and owning those sales, and more importantly, owning those hopefully ongoing royalties, which we know has kind of gotten fucked recently, but it was a really magical moment. We want to really re-envision that. And that's the beauty of this, is that we are going to take this one step at a time. Our goal doesn't need to be like, hey, this needs to be the biggest announcement in Web 2 around comic books. That's not the goal. Our goal is, hey, we're doing some dope shit in Web 2 comic books. Would you like to see what's happening in the comic book industry and be a part of it? Do you want to see some new IP be created right in front of you? Do you want to be able to talk to the artist or the story writer during the production of the comic to be able to get insights? And do you want to own the first print of that comic right off right off the line, in order to be able to be a part of this journey and be a part of this new wave where we're honoring and valuing the creators that are a part of this? And I think you're going to see a lot of people that are outside of Web3 that are going to be really excited about such a structure. And the biggest advantage we have, as well as we've been building Tabula Rasa and thinking through this, is that we've been identifying all of our partnerships for printing as well. So what most people do when they're launching a Kickstarter comic book is that they're usually requiring people to fund an idea, right? It's still in the development stage. They're actually not done. What's actually interesting, the way Tribe's going to work, is that, especially with the Tabula Rasa structure, we're actually going to have, once the campaign ends on Kickstarter, almost all the comic books will be shipped out within 2 to 4 weeks, right? It's this idea where you're able to be a part of the experience and be able to get the physical reward relatively quickly. Because again, the worst thing about Web3 has been waiting. The worst part about Web2 Kickstarter is waiting. Let's solve both of those problems and actually build out an experience that has it turnkey, where everyone can access and achieve physical assets as soon as they want around the brands that they. And we believe if we do this right, Tribe's going to have a unique opportunity alongside Tabula Rasa to recruit tons more talent, right? For every talent that's out there, we think we're going to be able to give them a better value proposition relatively quickly. And moreover, if we're able to show we have these huge, large audiences, right, bringing 300 plus concurrent people, right, what you're going to quickly see is that this market is going to want to bring more awareness and attention through us. There's no other channel out there right now that is able to kind of give any new growing artist 250 to 500 concurrent viewers on YouTube or Twitch. But this is actually one of the masteries that we've actually achieved here at Tribe. Look at Tribe. If you just want to see some crazy stats, just look at how we did what we've been doing for Rumble. With Rumble, it's amazing, right? What we've done is we've literally put the show on 4 different accounts already, and we've just been shifting it around. It's been on my own account as host, it's been on Tribe's account, it's been on Sam's account, and more importantly, we just did it on the Lost Realms account. We're just trying to see this reach. And every one of the shows is hitting 300 concurrent every single time. And that's like a really powerful element of where we're going in this market, is that we could actually be kingmakers on almost any content because of you guys as a community. So why would we limit our upside as a collective community just to these Web3 projects? I actually think this community could be very valuable for also Web2 projects too. We'll test this with Tabula Rasa, but imagine if we actually get this reach to work and we bring users over to YouTube or maybe onto Twitch. That means any project that is looking for YouTube reach or Twitch reach will want to come to us. And that might be us just giving away physical toys or physical partnerships for someone else that's a little bit random. In the end, all we care about is giving you guys more access based off the value of your attention. That's why we're building this whole portkey situation, and this whole design is that we're actually giving you guys on-chain reputation to actually receive your rewards under one bundled asset. And this is something that a lot of you won't realize its value. You'll realize the value as it starts unlocking within your hands. And the best part is these are all free claims for those of you who have Sol. And when you move this to this overall structure, what you're going to see is that we're going to be introducing an ERC 6551 framework, which is really interesting, really fresh, really different in regard to how it could work in our use cases. And then you're going to have multiple claims coming behind that as well. And this is where we start thinking that we could build full, complete loops of growth. This is actually how we think this market is actually going to scale and grow. And that means that you actually have to build an entire an entire growth loop that includes a Web3 native audience and then also includes a Web2 native audience. If you can absolutely connect all of these things together, you could actually build an engine, a flywheel effect. This is actually the business terminology that we're looking at. How do we actually build a flywheel effect here? And that's where it gets really exciting. So, Zabu asked, like, why is the port key needed, right? I mean, again, this is where active listening does matter, right? The same function is not possible with Sols already. It's not a 6551 framework. You have multiple standalone individual assets. You do not have a collective assets under a wallet. You have no on-chain reputation with your Sols. You just have the fact that you've minted one asset. There's no reputation tied to that at all. You're missing the entire focus of what the entire product opportunity will be. Sols only represent that you've been here at a certain mint date, right? It's actually a misrepresentation of the valued users here in this ecosystem. We had tons of people speculatively mint the first gen Sol, right? And the real reason was is that they saw it go up on, right? They saw it just trending on the mint radars. They're like, oh, let me go grab this really cheaply and add it in. So what you actually recognize, that's what happens to almost all of these free mints, all these POAPs, all these designs. They're not a method of curation, right? And that's kind of the other problem here in this market, is that no one actually understands what the next evolution will be, right? Even you as individuals who are collectors or participating in an ecosystem, right? The future doesn't really connect, right? And this is kind of a huge factor, right? That you want to really get right, right? You want to really get right in your mindset. And our system is not like any other system. There's been no system like this. It has nothing like Wildlife system. Wildlife is doing a structure where they turn their Genesis asset into a soft factory. That's not the goal here. This isn't a tradable asset or anything like that. So this is kind of why you really need to like just be willing to see new stuff. Our goal is not to build what this market is. Dude, I think this market's super boring. Like, I literally don't even read stuff happening in this market anymore, right? Because this market's just uninteresting. I have not found a single thing that's even worth my time at the moment right now to actually like be like, okay, I'm going to get on the trenches on this. I'm going to see why it's worth being early. This entire market has given us no reason for that. And again, we have two major things happening this month in regard to like Meme Lands coin and Grapes coin, but still the excitement really isn't there. We had short-term excitement for some people with Friendtech, but I already knew where Friendtech was headed, right? Then Stars Arena just being another clone of this. I'm like, I know where this is headed. And where they were headed was just accelerated through a hack. None of this stuff is interesting. The entire state of Web3 is incredibly fucking boring. Not a single person is trying to build a meaningful new opportunity that actually meets Web3 merits, right? There are people who are trying new stuff that are going to miss the mark because they actually don't understand what's being built, right? And then they're almost like outside of Web3. What I think Tribe's unique position is that we understand Web3 at its core. We are at the center a lot of Web3 core culture. We are communicating with new projects. We're partnering with existing projects, right? We're launching and thinking through our own stuff with village partners as well. Like at this kind of whole point and whole structure, what we're realizing is that we need a totally different path. And I agree, Please. Like, I am super bored with airdrop farming. I am super bored with these guys trying to do refer to earn structures. That's actually not what I'm interested in because all that shit is fake. No one is solving the problems in this market. And I'm telling you, the problem is bots and alts. Like, if you do not solve bots, alts, and grinders, this market never grows. This is what actually everyone doesn't understand, is that if we can't discern who's real and not real, then the actual value is getting extracted to those who are manipulating the markets. And that's been happening for a long fucking time in Web3. It's been happening for a long time in Web2 as well. Like, if you were part of sneaker culture, let me just tell you how fucked you guys got on sneaker drops by all the guys who were doing sneaker bots, right? And getting in multiple raffles in, creating huge amounts of email lists and accounts. This whole system is massively taking advantage of you, right? But if you could start building reputation, if you could start building curation, if you could start building an understanding of who's real, and then you could give that access to other parties and projects as well exclusively, you can start building something real in Web3. You could actually start building a community that is not extractive but can be compounding. That's what we need to shift towards, right? And almost no one is thinking through how do you solve for this, honestly, outside of Tribe. There are very few people trying to think through how do you solve through bot hurdles, right? Really, most people are leaning into bot hurdles at the moment right now, right? What is the problem overall, right? Is that this whole challenge has been, let's go fake our numbers. Let's go pump our numbers as much as we can. Let's go see how many Discord users join your account. Let's see how many people get a pre-min and alpha bot, how many followers you have. I mean, these guys in a market where, like, the saddest number I can tell you is that we've done a couple of our own metrics and segmentation of this market, where we defined what we believe is a true user, a true variable, a true market, and then we excluded all alt wallets, right? And alt wallets are kind of easy to identify based off like their timing of funding and a few other elements in regard to where they're being stored. But we did our best to kind of dedupe that. And the number we kind of got down to of like how many real users there are, and we've been doing this like every 2 weeks, so the number just keeps dwindling. That number of actual active buyers, right, active collectors in this market is sub 4,000, right? Really, it's sub 4,000 people, right? That's how small this fucking market realistically is. That doesn't mean that there's only 4,000 people in this market that have NFTs. There's a lot more. But almost 90% of those people that have those NFTs aren't actively buying. They're just here waiting for the culture or farming free airdrops, right? Or raffles. That's about it. And then, of course, what are they most likely going to do? They're going to be liquidators, right? If you get something for free and if you're not an active buyer, you're usually going to be liquidating that asset as well if you end up getting one. And that's where that sell pressure comes back in. Someone needs to figure out this loop of sell pressure versus buy pressure, or figure out a way to build conviction and alignment to hold long term. And all the signals are there, people. All the signals are there. Look at what all the top projects are doing right in this market and seeing how they're performing, right? Like if we go to Sugartown, right? I haven't even looked at Sugartown for a bit. I don't even know what their floor is at. Maybe they pumped and will make me look like a fool. No, they're at 0.24 ETH, right? And again, this is not a shot at Sugartown at all. I want to be very clear. All my language here is not a shot at Sugartown. The language is more of a clear reflection of this market. This market is telling you is that even with a 6,000 supply for a publicly traded company that is aiming to be a Genesis asset, right? What you're quickly seeing is that a 0.24 ETH floor is all we're able to get. Their metrics are also a little skewed because they did custodial staking, which is a little interesting. I'm surprised they did that. It's not the tenants I would want in Web3, but hey, they went with it. Interesting. And you can't see how many unique users there really are. But, last time I checked, it was around 38, 39%. So it's also a dwindling unique user. So you're looking at that 38, 39%, and you're looking at 3,000 unique holders, maybe roughly, or 2,600 unique holders. And then when you actually go look at that and look at it for alts and all that stuff, you probably realize they only have 500 to 1,000 truly unique holders in that overall ecosystem. And that's kind of why it's insane. And this is the biggest challenge, right? So what are most of the people trying to do in this market? They're either trying to avoid launching, right? Or they're now going to alt chain. I actually think you're going to see L2s start taking a little bit more interest. Like if Polygon or others were a little bit more competent, you would actually be seeing way cooler L2 upside. But in the end, here's the real big problem though, is that none of the L2s have been that intelligent. Almost none of these guys are taking advantage of this near-term opportunity to be able to go at the heart of mainnet ETH. And if one of these projects could actually make significant investments, the closest was Polygon, but Polygon didn't know what they were doing with Utes. Clearly, nothing happened with Utes on that ecosystem, which is still nuts to me. But also, that is Polygon for you. Polygon has always been really bad at NFT strategy. They just don't know what to do. The only thing Polygon's good at is building tech that works for their perspective of an L2 slash sidechain, but also BD with the larger partners. But they've always struggled with the small and mid-sized guys and haven't really been able to get long-term value. So this is where we have to realize is like who's going to figure out growth and sustainability in this market, and Tribe's putting our own twist against that. And that's where, again, Tabula Rasa is going to play a large role, and our, these passport port key system is going to play a very key role as well. And when you see that, what you'll realize is this big takeaway, right? Onboarding Web2 shouldn't be even about onboarding Web2. Honestly, all we're trying to do is onboard new users. That's it. That should be the language. I don't care if you were someone who's never touched Web3 or like, hey, you touched Web3 a little bit and got burned in the last bull market and you left. Both of those users are worth activating, right? And we should be doing everything in our power to do it. So there's actually 3 segments of users you want to go after if you want to be an intelligent builder in this market. One is active Web3 user who's still active in Bear, right? These are the truest, true high value users. And of course, there's subclusters of them, but let's put them in their own large cluster. So that's cluster 1, native Web3 users who are still active, right? Cluster number 2 is Web3 users that were once active but have now been sidelined, right? These are the guys that you want to re-engage. Tons of people have left this market, right, during this bear, right? If you look at the peak versus this bull, of the peak of the bull versus the bottom of this bear, we're looking at least on mainnet ETH NFTs at least 50,000 to 100,000 real users, right, have completely lost. That is a huge user and segment should be going after to figure out how do I reactivate these people to be willing to bet on our project as something to be a part of, especially if you're building free mints. This becomes a really important strategy. And then I think the third cluster that you want to be optimizing for here as well is that this third cluster here, right, is really coming down to the simple understanding of we need to get users who have no Web3 native premise to be willing to engage with brands that are born in Web. It doesn't mean I have to force a wallet on them. I don't even think you need to give them a custodial wallet yet. You just want them to be interacting with a brand that has no reference to Web3 for them, and it hurts none of their expected utility of what they're paying for as well. And if you could solve for those 3 layers correctly, and you know how to prioritize your efforts accordingly, you could be in a really good spot. So how is Tribe building for each of those clusters? Well, it's actually very clear. Well, first, right, we are building the Tribe Passport port key system, right, to allow everyone to be able to claim that are native Web3 users, right? And this is really going after the Tribe community and our partner communities as well. So that's where we're trying to build that product offering for that top native cluster. The second cluster, right, of going these guys that we want to re-engage and reactivate, well, I think the passports will be something we'll actually use. We have a few little wrinkles there, right? Depending on some of the partners we want to bring in, we could actually give them upside to this product experience and potentially get them to re-engage based off assets they've owned in the past. But the other thing that we're really excited about is this is why we built the Village platform, right? The Village network. We're also able to bring in and reactivate and build for existing Web3 natives with launches through TWL, guys like Jungle, and a few more as well, including Ether and Dimensionals as well. If we could get those users aligned there, great. We're going to get another layer of really meaningful upside coming to that community too. And then last, and probably most importantly, right, how do we go then after this last cluster? Well, we're going to build Web2 native experiences that have no aspects of Web3 tied to it to the consumer. And that's going to start with comic books via tabula rasa specifically. This is a new vertical, but what our goal is we want to actually see if we could support this entire funnel. If we can support this entire funnel, Tribe becomes a breakaway success, right? If we could win all three of those funnels. This is a very hard challenge. But if you get to that level, it's game over. Because realistically, the market is going to have to react and realize that you're going to have unfair growth advantages, community advantages, and partnership advantages too. And that's what we're really excited about at Tribe. So you're going to start seeing those phases, right? This whole month, you're going to start seeing the layers. We're going to give you guys a mint date that we're aiming for in regard to the port keys. The art's done. The partnerships are done. We're really excited about that. You're also going to see the first YouTube event. We're going to be doing more of a test event this week and then scaling up into future events, right, every Thursday as well. And you'll also see some live drawing sessions inside our Discord for just our own internal users too. And then beyond that, right, we're going to bring on more village partners. We're going to bring on more direct relationships. You're going to see updates from us in regard to all the existing village partners. Next week, you'll get a better understanding of how where Tribe's time is going with village partners and how we work, right? Because we made a lot of changes, right? Our relationships with Dimensionals and Ether are continually updating in a healthy way, right? Our relationships with TWL and Jungle are updating in a healthy way. Our goal is always to make sure that we're finding the path that is most efficient for all parties involved, right? And that's kind of where this whole challenge goes to another kind of design and opportunity too. Yep, and there'll be passive relics coming. We're rolling all of this stuff out together. We have been a little delayed, and I want to be very transparent and apologize for some of these delays as we've been juggling a lot, right? We took on more risk than we expected with kind of an opportunity with Ether, which we believe was the right risk to do. But it does lead to us, of course, playing this fun juggling game. And this is the hard thing in Web3, right? We're building so openly, so transparently, right? It means that you guys have the opportunity to call us out when we're 1 or 2 weeks behind on something, right? And we've been 1 or 2 weeks behind on quite a few smaller projects, right? But that's what every good startup is doing. You're playing this juggling act and trying to put your resources to the top priorities in any given moment. It does mean a few plates drop, but it doesn't mean that you have to forget about those plates, right? And that's what Tribe's trying to be better at. We're trying to make sure we get to all of those plates and make sure that we're getting you more value, right? And that means village opening up, right? That means a village market opening up. That means our partnerships increasing. That means more something is minting event. That means more direct Discord events. It means more access to other partnerships that could yield you guys either free tools or other features. There's a lot coming behind Tribe because we've essentially are going through another evolution these last 60 days to really figure out where this is. And why are we going through this evolution? Right? Why are we going through this evolution? Well, it became very clear to us that this market's going to continue to act sideways for a very long time, right? This has been the most apparent thing to us. All the signals we were waiting for, every signal has honestly disappointed. Honestly, for the last 4 or 5 months, there's been no true positive signal in this market in the last 3 to 5 months in regard to like native NFT consumer projects on ETH mainnet. Right? I still would contend that Sugartown is not a success based off Sugartown's entity's goal at Zynga. I'm not saying it's not a success for free minters. Congratulations, free minters, you have profit. And for those of you who are able to buy an early, amazing. And I'm really excited and hope that their strategy of being able to reskin existing Web2 games over to Web3 can work. But at that floor price, right, you should all be questioning. You should all be questioning, is there any assets that can break out further than this in this market? What does it take to like expand this, and break the resistance that we're feeling towards this floor that's effectively held these floor prices significantly down? And I'm not saying that you can't build an outlier. This is actually an opportunity to try to build certain outliers. But trying to build certain outliers means you take on very large risks. And here's the best part about Tribe is that we're not needed. We're not required to take unnecessary risks right now. We found good progress. We found good opportunities. We found good upside. We don't have to risk it all for the sake of it, because this business, this entity, this community is still growing. It's still retaining. It's still finding value. Of course, we want to do better every month. Of course, we want to exceed your expectations every month. But if you actually look at how this ecosystem has stood up over this time, there's a lot of healthy variables for us. And that means that puts us in a position of luxury. We are no longer defined by any singular project. We're no longer defined for any specific floor price. What we are defined on is the collective community and the value you come at. And with all these projects still continually getting huge upside for Tribe, getting us large allocations, this is where our powers continue to combine. And if we can knock this out with new content like what you're seeing with Rumble, and if we could have that type of similar success by going over to YouTube, it means that we unlock a whole new medium, right, of communication to another community. And potentially, we're also going to bring in a lot new assets as well. And I think this is going to be kind of the huge opportunity of what we believe with our entire stack. So as we talk about finding your vibe, it's also understanding how you guys want to find your vibe with other projects in this ecosystem as well. You can at least hear on Tribe's approach. Tribe's trying to keep it as transparent as we can, but Tribe's approach is a little bit more patient, right? We do believe in patience here, but it doesn't mean we're stopping. Right? One of the biggest things to realize is that our village partner, right, in TWL just had one of the most successful new mints in a very long time. It's very interesting data. It's not a paid mint, but it was a paid mint for $1, not an expensive paid mint, let's say that. But what was really fascinating is that you were able to see a total new structure. And again, it went to 50,000, right? New mints. And almost 10,000 unique holders, right? And that's kind of like the important thing that we're trying to kind of scale, is find more of these opportunities, more of these projects to be able to be part of our world and part of our design. So, you're always going to see us be experimenting, and this is a period of experimentation. And we're going to put out some of our own experiments as well. But you as a collector should be asking yourself, what are the other experiments I want to be a part of? What are the other projects that are trying to do stuff that is a little bit outside of the curve, right? Outside of the expected line that we are traditionally going to take. If you could find projects like that, I think you're going to be a lot more successful in this bear, but more importantly, I think you're going to be a lot more happy, right? That alignment for the projects that you're trying to build is incredibly, incredibly important. What a lot of people are still struggling with in this market is that they feel like they could be the ones that break through on their own. And this is the harsh reality to share. No singular NFT first project is going to be large enough to rescue the entire market. That's definitely not going to be the case, right? I hope there's going to be maybe a flurry of 4 or 5 of these projects coming together and timing it up. And I think that's also another thing that other builders should be doing. Builders should be coordinating launch strategies together in that same window to increase the chance of success. But if we keep taking this PvP-like approach, this market is really, really tough, right? And that's kind of why overall, right, we've hurt ourselves in Web3. If you actually truly believe in Web3 tenants, you should be probably incredibly disgusted by this market. And I mean it, like just straight up disgusted by this market. This is a market that traditionally has overlooked your value. This is a market that has traditionally gone away from the advantages of the technology itself. This is a market that has become greedy and greedy for unnecessary reasons. And this is a market that continually cannot deliver anything over a long-term period. Web3 has been massively disappointing when it comes to NFTs. And because of that, you should be asking for something new. You should be looking for something different. You should be seeing playbooks that honestly make you question, what the fuck are these guys thinking, in a good way, right? You already know all the bad variables. You already know the bad supply variables. You already know the bad mint price variables. You already know the bad utility variables. You guys are actually incredibly well informed if you've been really active in Tribe, that you could actually build a really thoughtful framework on the type of projects that you want to participate in. And I'm sure there's multiple other communities that are helpful for that. But gone are the days of alpha, in my opinion. Like that whole era is dead. And I hope influencers die off with them as well. Right? Like I literally do not want influencers and this concept of alpha being the primary way of distributing like user growth, because that is false user growth. And that false user growth cannibalizes the progress that this industry is aiming to make on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis as well. And this is where Tribe's going to continue. Tribe's going to try to continue to be a counterculture to the unfortunately stuck culture that we've built. This is an entity, this is a ecosystem that still has tremendous potential. Like tremendous potential, right? Right? But the biggest problem that we're ending up running into is that none of us are letting us realize that potential, right? And that's sad. It really is. I massively appreciate all of you guys who are here constantly. Our goal is trying to figure out a huge way to give you guys upside in regard to how and what is being built in a day-to-day basis. But our goal is also to give you information to stuff outside of our ecosystem. Tribe legitimately cares about your user journey. We really care that it's not just, hey, what can Tribe do for you? It's more like, how can Tribe connect you to other projects that could do value stuff for you as well, too? And this is how we think that we could actually build a real large challenge, a real large proposition, because in the end, I think people are truly looking for a home that continues to be there for them day in and day out. And Tribe could potentially be that. We're still figuring out what that means as a community, right? We're still trying to figure out how this is going to impact or change what's going to happen in this world. But, at the same time, what I'm excited about is that we have some of the craziest metrics on retention and engagement in this space. And it's because we're not worried about the stupid metrics that everyone else is. I do not care about Discord followers or Twitter followers. I do not care about how many chats you guys put into the chat room anymore. I really do not. All I care about is how well and how often you engage with the live content and audio to build a concurrent audience. That's what we have here. We have the strongest concurrent audience in Web3. There's no denying that. The amount of times that we've been able to have 300 plus people show up to a live event is ridiculous. And then if you actually look at this here as well, what's really cool is that we actually are one of the most engaged communities. If you look at the chat in War Room, almost nobody looks in the chat in War Room from external parties, so they can't evaluate what we're doing. And that's the hilarious part, is that all these people are like looking at, how you get, how many impressions do you get? I'm like, none of those matter. The question I want to ask is, how many views and impressions you get from people that you know are real holders? Can you answer that? Guess what? Tribe can answer that. Tribe can answer that completely. Tribe can actually have a better understanding of that more than any other organization out there as well. And that's kind of where like Tribe's advantage becomes so clear. And that's what we're continually building for in this bear market. We want to continually grow, continually scale, continually build. And if we get all that stuff right, this market is going to be in our advantage. That's what I hope you guys all can understand of how Tribe is still assembling. But it is patience. It's patience, it's awareness, it's strategy, it's thoughtful decision making, it's understanding when we need to double down on something or when we need to, pull back. It's a lot of variables that need to come in. But look, guys, look at the variables that are very clear in front of us. Look at the project that is at a similar timeline with us in Yoga Pets. Look at the projects that were similar timelines in Genkai, right? CyberCon Genkai. Look at the projects that were in very similar launch cycles as what Tribe was thinking. And what you recognize really quickly is that there's just not a good reason in this market to be accelerating when you're just seeing a sea of death. right? And a sea of death doesn't help Tribe scale, right? The advantages that we've all collectively put in here, right? And collectively invested in here, right? Invested as in time, not capital, invested as in our belief in where this is going. We shouldn't throw that away for a short-term win. We should never throw that away for a short-term win. If you intrinsically believe that, we're going to be in a really aligned position. But those who don't believe that do struggle with the approach that Tribe is taking. And again, I'm not opposed for people struggling with that, right? It's rather understanding, like, hey, I know what you are requiring, I know what you want, but I want to let you know what this business needs, and maybe you should give us just a little bit of grace and room that we know what we're doing based off this market, right? No one has shown me a good counter narrative yet. And because no one has shown me a good counter narrative yet, we maintain with the strategy within. Tribe has been born in despair. Tribe has grown in despair. Tribe has thrived in despair. Tribe has ensured that we didn't over extract. Tribe has ensured that we've only over delivered value in terms of access to other projects. And what we're trying to really do, we're really trying to make sure that we mature. Our next evolution is in a phase that I don't want to say it's bull, but it's just like not dead bear, right? Like hibernation bear mode right. That's what we're in right now. I just want to go from like hibernation to like, like a small jog around the park as a bear. If I could do that, oh, then I'm happy, right? And that's like the biggest thing to understand is that the variables of this market are actually very clear. The number of unique users, the volume, all this stuff is actually very clear if you know what data you should be looking at. And the honest truth is, the data has consistently said, at least in our estimation, you should not be minting for the last, honestly, 12 months. Last, yeah, close to 12, 13 months. And that's a brutal thing to say out loud, right? It's a brutal thing to say out loud because then the question then begs is, can we build a community that is not driven by short-term financial reward? And in kind of a way, we've done that here, right? We are still getting upside with knowledge and access, and there's whitelists that are still coming in, right? But what's really interesting, right, is realizing, if we force any of this stuff out, right, we're going to lose the advantage of what we've been building. And I don't want to lose our advantage. Tribe has been compounding. Tribe has been scaling. Tribe has been finding new ways and business models to attack. And Tribe is in a great position as well to scale on our Web2 side of the equation of considering more venture capital if we want to raise a future round, right? So there's a lot of exciting things coming. And because of that, we want to keep this sustainable too. So, as you think about finding your vibe, I want to always keep it 100% transparent with each and every one of you. I want you to always understand how we're building and why we're building and the reasons that led to it. And of course, that doesn't mean that I need you to agree with it, but I need to hold up our end of the bargain to let you know what goes into a decision making. You are seeing a live startup navigate one of the hardest periods ever. One of the hardest build periods ever. Probably this is the hardest build period since the great, .com crash, right? Like really, this is that hard of a period. And if not, you could even argue it could be harder. I can't really speak because I did not build them during the .com, boom and crash. I was too young for that era, but it does give us a lot of insights of where this is going. And if you could give grace to the right founders, you'll start seeing that there's a lot of cool ways. I don't get me wrong, I think Tribe should always have pressure, especially if Tribe did take out 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 ETH from this market. But Tribe's never done that, right? Tribe has not asked for any capital meaningfully outside of the initial diamond mint, which is still incredibly profitable. And it's profitable based off not only the asset itself, but holding the asset and the claims that came with it. But additionally, right, with Soul, if you think about it, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but it's probably the best $20 you could buy, especially if you're an active user. It might not be valuable if you're not an active user, right? And we understand that, right? All this stuff kind of comes into the challenge, right? Of like finding a value proposition that can meet each and every one of your needs. We're never going to be able to do that. But our hope is that we get the collective you, right? All of you to kind of feel that on a whole, as an aggregate, this has been something really meaningful for you to be a part of it as well. So, as we kind of wrap up here, right? What I'm really excited here is that, we're going to continue to build what we've done. We now have 3 layers of growth in one community. We get tribe projects, we get village projects, and we get the something is minting projects, right? And that's a real important factor. Additionally, behind that, what you're also seeing is then tribe is finding new ways to also deliver value to give you guys credibility to other projects as well. This might not make sense yet, but I promise you, if you remember the early days of Web3 where people were just like, hey, I have whitelist, let me just go give it out to Ape List or the Moonbirds group or whatever the fuck it was, because they all had high asset prices, right? Like that's what they were doing, right? What do we actually care about? Well, Tribe thinks we could rebuild that where it's like, oh shit, you have a Tribe passport and this is the type of engagement you had there, and this is the type of valued user you are, I would love for you to be a whitelist holder or be part of our whitelist process as well. That's actually what we're trying to get to. That's a very, very big swing. But if we get to that, oh my God, it could be massive for you guys. This is not even a product that's being built for Tribe to quote unquote be generating any near term revenue. We're building this so that you guys get even more access as well. And whoever can crack that first is going to be a long term winner, right? Whoever can aggregate that in a meaningful way is going to be a real long term winner. And that's what Tribe's doing. We're going beyond the concept of alpha groups. We're going beyond the short term bullshit around, hey, let's do a raffle with, Premint or AlphaBot, all that shit is garbage. All that shit should die. Tribe is going to be able to point out in the very near future, if you want to curate real holders, start with us. Start with what we're doing. This is an absolute huge focus of where Tribe is going, and more importantly, where I think Tribe can be an outlier from both an enterprise value perspective, but also a holder value perspective. And that's the other thing. And it's hard to get credit for this, and I understand that. But one of the things that most people don't realize is that we constantly make decisions that benefit our community as much, if not more, than the entity itself. Right? What do I mean by that? Well, very simply put, we give you guys all the allocations, right? We give you guys 99.9% of allocation, right? Because our goal is to give you guys more of the short-term upside than it is for our entity, right? When we think about it, like our business models, we also want to protect you guys, right? Where we're always giving you unbiased content if we can, right? And here's the crazy thing. Do you know how many minutes I've done live audio in? Do you know how many like projects we've supported and gone through? And do you know what's crazy is we've never taken ETH for any of our live events yet? Because we're not letting anyone bias our position for you guys to be able to get real knowledge. We turn down capital to the entity to ensure that we could protect you guys to actually not get fucking influenced. You're not getting influenced from us, right? What we're doing is we're educating you, and that means that we're giving up upside to us. Like, you know how easy it would be for me to like say like, "Oh, I'm not going to turn Tribe into an entity. I'm going to turn Tribe into a lifestyle business." If I turn Tribe into a lifestyle business and just keep it lean, right? The amount of money I could extract from this is super high, right? We could just charge for every live event, audio event. I could keep 20 to 30% of the wait list for myself if I wanted to, right? Like if I wanted to be that dick. You know what's crazy is there's a lot of people who are already doing that out there in the marketplace. But we ensure our business model, right? Our business model always ensures holders are taken into account with everything else. We never make you a secondary citizen when we think through these conversations and these discussions. And that's what I think will set Tribe way apart from the rest of the builders out there. If you guys don't win, we don't win. I sincerely have built that process around you. Diamonds know that. They're the first layer of value in everything that we can give and everything that we can support. And that's incredibly, incredibly important too. So I hope you can see in this like overall challenge is that we need to find ways to onboard people in general into Web3, but it's rather we just need to create new users. We need to either build more aligned users for those who are here. We need to find those who've been in Web3 before and have left and churned, and we want to reactivate them and bring that back. And then we want to give great Web2 experiences to Web2 natives as well so that they could participate in the world without acknowledgement of Web3. If we can do all of that, we can get to a really good position. So, guys, with that, we're in a really good spot. I massively appreciate it. We've been playing catch up. I've been playing catch up personally as well. I'm almost fully caught up, so we'll hopefully be able to see even more information. Even when I'm sick, we're still showing up for shows. Even when we're a little bit behind, we're still showing up for events and providing stuff out. So I hope that you guys can give us grace when we can, when we do have a little slow up periods. But at the same time, keep us honest. We have a lot more to deliver, and I'm really excited for that. So thank you guys for listening in. If you're joining in, you probably would have received the relic in this case, which is called Find Your Vibe Onboarding. It was auto given out about 15 minutes ago in this case. So don't worry, you don't need to enter on this front. But hopefully, like I said, I hope you guys have more thoughts around how you think this market could develop, how you think this market should grow, what you're seeking from this market, and what you want to invest in. A lot of you guys are killing it at the moment right now by just being willing to be a part of this process with us. And there's so much ahead. There's a wide portfolio. There's a different launches, different projects, different partners. We're going to find different ways to cut in and make sure that all of you are getting to be a part of what we think is going to be one of the most powerful entities in the future of Web3. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for building your reputation with us. And we're going to do everything in our power to kind of share that back. I'm going to wrap up this one and then we could do a quick like 10-minute, 15-minute Wallet Wars debrief. If you guys really want to talk about that, I could do that right now. If you want to jump off, feel free. But we could quickly talk about Wallet Wars as well. And just kind of give you my insights there. Real quick, Wallet Wars is hyped. It's hyped and they're and it's hyped because it's got the Animoca backing, and they've been doing some decent stuff on the marketing side here as well, which is interesting. But I still think like they're still stuck in the previous era of Web3. And what I mean by that is that the stuff that I was a little uncomfortable with is that they're trying to run a FOMO mint. A FOMO mint where, the supply and price wasn't known. They did share details at the end, which was interesting, right? We kind of like squeezed it out of them here as well. But, at the same time, right, in this market, I would want to see way more utility and way more understanding and alignment of what you're pricing and how we're going to be able to participate. The other big question that we didn't get answered, and it would have been nice to answer, is what percentage of their paid mint is going into their prize pool as well. It seems like this is going to be the way that they're structuring their deal. And this means that effectively there's little speculative value in the asset, right? That's actually the interesting thing here, right? You should only be minting this if you plan to play the game. And that's kind of the crazy thing is we don't even know the game. So we don't even know the win conditions, right? So this is kind of one of those weird things, right, where you have a blind mint to play able to play a game that will give you rewards, but you don't know what that game is, you don't know what the time constraints are for that game, and you don't know whether or not it's going to be something that you think is fun. That's kind of the scary part here. I don't think that's the right design. If Wallet Wars really wanted to build a game experience here, right, they should have built a mint experience that was gamified to show, like, hey, this is how some of the game could look like. Come be a part of this. And then you'll be like, oh, they actually built, there's some hype that could actually go to a really interesting opportunity here to kind of scale. I didn't get that from them, which was a little bit of a worry. And the part was is that it was actually really hard to understand what they're building. There were many times that I had to kind of like recycle the language on their behalf to be able to like at least get something pretty straightforward. During the chat, there were a lot of diamond holders who were confused on what was being said in our chat. So that's not a good sign, right? Is like, are you actually, right, going to like, are you actually able to communicate what your entity is and what you're building? So all we got from them thus far, for those of you who may miss this, is that they're effectively building some type of like decentralized, like very soft MMO, not MMO in terms of graphics, but MMO in terms of like social resource production and a few other elements as well. You're effectively buying a pass to be able to play the game, and then a majority of the mint funds will be given out as prizes to win, but the prize pool will not be larger than what you guys paid as the mint fees, right? So that means that effectively, right, in this the way that they're building the design, they're telling us, right, is that you're going to need to spend some money with IAPs as well. I'm trying to remember all the details. It's also on 2Chainz, which, as much as I love the wrapper, I don't love it as a strategy in Web3. Um, I think the idea of 2Chainz leads to fragmentation. If you're going to introduce 2Chainz, it should come out a lot later as well. So again, it didn't feel as complete as I would want. That's my honest truth. They've at least raised venture capital, right, which is great. They've at least have a game running, so that was like the other bullish sign is like the mint is next week. They plan to unlock a refer to earn mechanic, which I think is also really bearish, right? It's just going to be incentivized by bots as well, right? And I think the other big problem that we're going to run into is that, then is there going to be enough attention to the game they introduced that's still blind, but the game should come out 2 weeks after mint. So give them credit. The game will come out fast. No one knows what the game. I know they've referenced like old school retro arcade. I just don't know what that really means and where that's going to work. It's not the strategy I would take in this bear market. There is some speculative stuff because the interesting thing about the company is that they are a larger parent company called Balthazar DAO. So they've actually have already released a few other products, including their own wallet. There's not a ton of reach on that stuff, but they do have partnerships there. So the speculative value of holding this asset or participating is that they said they might be part of their token release in the future, but that's really all we got, right? Is like, oh, let's go, like, hey, like, are you care about the token, then maybe this is an asset that you might care about. But that was pretty much the only reason to hold long term, because the way they said it is they're going to reset it seasonally, right? The problem here is that this is the actual strategy, right? That another company did called Internet Game. It was, like G Money was involved in well, and they effectively did the same approach, right? Is that they did a mint. It was a non-speculative ticket essentially, and that ticket entitled you to play some games. And with those games, right, you were effectively able to enter these like quick little mini games, and you'd play like almost like it was almost like Squid Game kind of like output, which was interesting. But you'd play the game, and then there'd be these huge prizes, and if you get on the top of the pool, you could win like for a 0.1 ETH min, you could have won a Bored Ape or Mutant Ape or a Pudgy or whatever the hell their prizes were. So they took about like 66 to 75% of their prize pool, of their mint pool, and put it in their prize pool. Again, it's not a bad experience, but it's not a growth experience, right? So really all you're seeing here is that if you're looking at it from a non-player perspective, meaning like you're not going to play the game, it reads like a quick mint, right? Sorry, a quick flip, right? If you're going to mint it, flip it as fast as possible, as long as you see there's enough delta in that volume, that's really what the strategy historically would be showing. But if you're a good active gamer and you believe in their prize pool and the mint funds that are a follow, that could be really interesting. I think they already announced that they have like a Pudgy and a few others already in their prize pool. So if you feel that you want to play these mini games and like dedicate a lot of time, there could be value. But what does this also mean? It just means this is a bunch of grinders, right? It's just a bunch of people who have too much time to play games to be able to grind up leaderboard. And that's not the right design either. So I don't know if they have a refresh or a cooldown. We really didn't get that strategy from them. But you have to realize, like, Wallet Wars isn't really focused as much on the game side as they are in getting wallets and revenue flowing through their ecosystem. So I think they're still going to have a successful mint on their standards as a builder, but I don't think it will be perceived as a successful mint for most of the holders unless they really want to be active. If they were really bullish and they raised money, like I would have told them, it's like, hey, like if I were them, this is how I would have pitched this, right? What would be the exact thing that I would have done? It's like, hey, we're doing this. Um, we've already created a $100,000 or $200,000 prize pool that we're seeding ourselves, and after you mint it, you could get in, and then you surprise them and be like, all your mint funds were also added in to the entire structure, right? And then it'd be like, oh, then there's actually profit here because there's more money to be yielded than that was put in, right? Which makes this a little bit more interesting, but then it also makes gamers a lot. Really, what's going to end up happening is like 30 to 40% of their minters are not going to understand this that directly. And they'll be like, fuck, you want me to play what for how long? Screw this. And they're going to dump out. So, again, if you're an active gamer who has a shit ton of hours and time, this is probably a speculative asset to keep an eye out on. But here's the honest truth: if it is speculative, then you don't really mint it. You wait for someone who realizes through like the 10, 20, 30% of people who realize they don't want to play this game. And you're going to be able to realize that, oh shit, I should probably just buy this on secondary for cheaper. Right. So that's what I think will realistically happen, because guess what? That's exactly what happened with internet games as well. You could actually see the entire flow of that entire cycle. And it's the exact same thing that Wallet Wars is doing. I talked to the Wallet War guys a long time ago. When I say a long time, 4 or 5 months ago, and they're smart guys, but they weren't able to take a lot of the actual core feedback. What I think they've actually ended up doing is that they're just becoming another grindy play. And I think that's so disappointing, right? To be very honest. I still appreciate it. I think there's still so much that we don't know about, that maybe they have some other things hidden up their sleeves. But from an AMA perspective and what we've seen publicly thus far, it doesn't seem like a competent rollout for what I would be seeking for a project in this bear. But again, this is not financial advice. This is just the information of what I'm seeing and understanding from the patterns that have played out before. Because internet games is a good comp, take a look at it, right? It's a really, really factor here. I agree with Vegas guy here as well, right? Like they need, they the only way you're going to get a lot of interesting volume here is that they're self-sweeping. I actually don't know a lot of major alpha groups talking about Wallet Wars like they're excited to get in, because it's not a tradable asset. There's no PFP or anything like that. A lot of people are saying that the rumors is mint is 0.089. I don't think it's that high. If they do it that high, it's a miss. It really is a miss. It would be a total miss on mint price, to be very honest. They need this to be sub 0.05, in my opinion. To be honest, I would do grapes, right? I think, what was it, 0.0369, something like that. I think that's really what you want to see. But again, we don't know, which is still crazy. The fact that we still don't know mint price and they're less than whatever 8-10 days away from mint, whatever it may be, it's a little bit of a worry. But here's the other like counterpoint that I'd share with all of you as well. If there's a project that you might want optionality on, it might be this one. There is enough hype, there is venture backing, there's some weird products that are being built behind. Maybe the team sucks at communicating it right now, but maybe there's something further behind. I don't know. It's kind of like a little interesting. I'm just not really sure where that's actually going to go and where that actual design is going to be. No, the $15 mint is the second mint to be able to play the game. There's like another primary mint as well on mainnet that seems like it's going to be priced higher. I again don't know because it's so hard to understand. It was actually that was one of the hardest summaries I ever had to give for a project, right? So again, I'm not sure who needs to what you need to mint. Do you need to mint both? I don't think you need to mint both. The way I think they're doing it is that if you get the Genesis or whatever they're calling on mainnet, you're good. But if you weren't able to get that, you could then go buy a playable asset on this L2, which I think is a bad decision. The only way the L2 actually makes sense is if they got an L2 to pay them a shit ton of money to launch on their platform. If they got that, then it's interesting, right? But again, it's not interesting for collectors, though, right? It's only interesting for them as builders. But again, right, we've seen a few different counter narratives here. Like, again, ZTX still doing weird stuff on Polygon, which is, sorry, on Arbitrum, which is still crazy. ZTX now up to like 0.5 ETH. Again, it's very shallow volume. It's just they've taken the advantage of go to a chain where there's not enough volume and we could self sweep or bring in other whales to come in and sweep. It's kind of amazing. But a project like this early shouldn't have such a low listing percentage. So I'm actually really curious if you go look at the wallet analysis. I haven't done it yet. I said I was going to do it last time, but using Arbiscan is it's not bad. It's just not as easy as I'd want to do it. But it's actually quite interesting to go take a look at how they distributed the initial users because still the weird thing about ZTX is how few are listed, right? Like this is kind of insane. And what you're seeing though is that it might be like almost like a cart party like scenario. Not saying that they're all self buying and like at the level of cart party, but rather it's that because it's such an alt chain and most people don't even care about listing on it or they forgot about the airdrop, right? That just a little bit of internal buying power here, right? That are massively, massively, right? Able to kind of push the volume in their direction. That's maybe what we're able to see here at the moment right now. But again, it's very strange. It's still not something that's like, oh, we should all go to Polygon or Arbitrum or wherever it may be, because none of this stuff makes sense, right? It really doesn't. And that's like the other challenge in this market is like, what can you do to like actually sustain? And again, when we look to Blur, like let's just go back to the top collections on Blur. The only one that's actually doing well is Pudgy Penguins. Like shout out to Pudgy. Even dealing with the FUD this last week, still sitting at 5.1 ETH, it looks like, as a floor price, which is really impressive. And it's now above Mutant Apes, legitimately. You're also seeing like, other projects just struggling, like Clonex struggling. Clonex about to go under 1 ETH, it looks like, sitting at 1.11. The God's kind of struggling as well, doesn't really know where it stands. So you're getting a little bit of noise between all these assets as well. But again, if you look at like just the top volumes as well, it's really just run by Yuga. Everything else is just like super outliers at this point. And that's kind of the disappointing thing is that this market got monopolized too early. And now we need to figure out ways to break through. But even Captain sitting at 3.2. Hey, Ozuki Elemental's not doing bad. Back up to 0.47. I mean, again, still down over 75% from mint, but not awful. Getting back to almost a 0.5 E floor here as well. Very interesting stuff, right? Sugartown volume looks like it's slowing down a little bit here, but no, it's still doing good 7-day volume, actually. Hold on. Where's Sugartown? Sugartown's probably doing what? 137. So they're like the 20th highest volume of a project, but you are seeing it slow down really quickly. And this is now going to be Sugartown's challenge. is there going to be enough volume as they go through staking? And how does that impact, help, or hurt the project? A lot of good insights there on that front. Dead Migos pretty much dead. Nakamigos just declining down to 0.16. It's a tough market. It's a tough market all around. And I think this is kind of where we're realizing that if you're going to be minting in this bear, ooh, you got to come correct. You got to really have good insight or know exactly what you're building, or you're going to run into huge issues. And it's just what continually happens in this market. There's a lot of people just running into these constant issues, and because of that, it just lets you should really be asking yourself, why should anyone be minting? They really shouldn't, right? And I don't think Wallet War gave me enough reason to be bullish on that front. On that, I hope there's more behind their pitch, but again, I'm just not sure because we didn't get a lot of it during the event. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insights there. I'm not really sure what else is going to be happening overall with that project. We're going to stay tuned and see kind of what they're doing. Again, it's still a mint worth having a whitelist for. Would I be overpaying for this on auctions? Probably not. But again, that's up to you guys. You guys can have fun. We'll unlock some auctions this evening. They'll run for 48 hours, so you'll have plenty of time. But we'll have Wallet Wars today. Tomorrow we'll have, what am I blanking on? Geoverse. And then beyond that, we're also going to have Michelin whenever they figure out their launch date. It looks like they want to switch the date again. So it might be moving later this week or early next week. So again, we should get good stuff here. But overall, right, hey, this market still figuring out what it is. If you're going to take some risks, you're taking risks with your relics, and that's fine. And that's the whole point of this entire structure, is that you guys can calculate your risks accordingly. And for the 300 of you or 250 of you here right now, you're going to have more insights, more than most, on how that will be. So, plan it around. We'll actually do some oath mints coming up. And we'll also be doing Reaper's mints will be coming back, but it'll be a small amount. You won't be able to be part of the creative process, but you'll be able to be, of course, still getting a Genesis asset, which is quite interesting too. So we got a lot of cool stuff. So we'll get these auctions coming for you guys: Oath auction, Reaper's auction, Enlightened auction as well. So a lot of cool stuff coming up. So guys, with that, I'm going to let you all go. Appreciate you sticking through. It's been 2.5 hours since we started with Rumble. A lot of you have been here for those 2.5 hours. We don't forget. We appreciate you a lot, and we can't wait to give you your value back for all of the participation here. Go enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll chat soon. Bye-bye now.